You asked this question about how to purify the mind. I would go back 2 steps and say, why purify the mind? It is very essential to clean your mind to avoid being cheated. Not cheated by someone else, but by yourself. What else are we doing to ourselves? Doing things, desiring things, expecting things, saying things, thinking things that ultimately bring us suffering. And physical suffering is fine, but mental suffering is way too difficult to bear. So it's very, very essential that we purify this mind of all that causes that suffering to us. You ask this question today, how to purify the mind? It's easier said, very difficult done. True. You know, Shri Krishna has given a different path. Bhagavan Buddha has given a different path of how to achieve this, how to attain this. In the Bhagavad Gita, Shri Krishna says, Indriyani parani ahur, indriyebhyah param manah, manasastu parabuddhir, yo buddhe paratastu saha. Now what does this mean? In these 4 lines lies the answer about how to purify your mind. What is the meaning of these lines? They mean that our organs, our sense organs, or our organs of action are greater than the body. The mind is greater than the organs. The intellect is greater than the mind. And the self is greater than the intellect. So what do you have to do? You have to bring your mind under the control of your discriminating intellect, and then the intellect under the control of the self. That is one way. What does Bhagavan Buddha say? He says, he says it differently. He says, from right understanding, you proceed to the right thought. From the right thought, you proceed to the right speech. From right speech, you proceed to the right action. And from right action, you proceed to the right livelihood. The path of Dhamma. Now in both these, if you compare, Shri Krishna is talking about the process, the way you can do that, the way you can purify your mind. Bhagavan Buddha is giving you again the path. How from, the right speech, right action, you attain the right livelihood. So the bottom line is your discriminating intellect has to be made sharp. You have to strengthen it such that only then, once that intellect is strengthened, that your mind is going to be governed by the intellect, or your mind and desires will be overpowered by your buddhi, your intellect, your vivek. So the mind has to remain under the control of the intellect, is the basic thing. This is how you will start reducing your desires, and slowly and gradually you will be able to purify your mind. But you have to take the first step somewhere, right? So if we go by Bhagavan Krishna, how do we start? We start being first less body conscious. Then we start decreasing the sensory inputs, or we start overpowering our sensory pleasures. Then we go to the mind as a whole, and when we are able to do that, the intellect, the strongest part, the discriminating part of the mind takes over, and then eventually the mind is able to be, I would say the mind is surrendered towards the self. Om.